In this video, I'm going to be covering the match between TSM and Luminosity Gaming that was held on Playday 8 of the 10th season of Rainbow Six Siege Pro League NA. To start, however, we're going to mention the map bans. So the first two maps in Cafe and Clubhouse need to be banned because both teams played those maps last in the previous Playday.
Not Cafe or Clubhouse.
Luminosity then bans Bank because they always ban Bank. TSM bans Border because they also always ban Border. LG then bans Coastline, and to this point, I've predicted everything correctly. The reason why LG banned Coastline is because TSM is very strong at Coastline, and LG bans Coastline as their third most banned map. But TSM shakes up my prediction when they choose to ban Villa and take LG on Consulate. Consulate is LG's only statistically strong map. It's also a strong map for TSM, but TSM is much stronger on Villa statistically than LG is on Villa. So I was a bit surprised to see TSM decide to take the action to LG on their strongest map. And we'll see if that gamble works out in their favor.
No, it's Consulate. Consulate again? Alright.
Moving on to the operator bans.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
LG bans first because they're on defense.
Let's come out like here. Capital, Nomad.
The first ban is Capital. As I mentioned before, Capital is very strong on Consulate. You can dislodge any player in meeting or yellow stairs using his firebolt. And then the smoke bolt is beneficial for a white van plant or a main lobby plant on their respective bomb sites. He's also just considered to be a operator who was quote-unquote broken in the Pro League meta. TSM then bans Nomad. Nomad being banned enables runouts more easily because our air jabs won't stop those flanks. Consulate is a pretty tight map, and so Nomad also disables any runouts within the building. This increases the power level of Claymores as well as Gridlock. Both aren't necessarily mandatory, but definitely help in controlling the map.
And now,
TSM then bans Valkyrie, and they're allowing Luminosity to leave both ACOGs on Consulate, which I find is interesting. I think that TSM knows Luminosity always ban at least Maestro or Echo, so they can take this gamble, but there was the potential for Mira to be left on the board. TSM banning Valkyrie increases the power level of all other Intel operators in Pulse and Mozzie, as well as Echo Maestro, although one of those will be banned in just a second. And also disables the ability for roamers to run out effectively, since those black eyes won't be in the trees of Consulate.
and it started already.
LG then bans the ACOG operator in Echo.
Echo, alright, well, first match.
As long as Echo can drunk, disorient, move his yokais, is intel that's universally shared, and his yokai's cloak, Echo, as well as disable plant, Echo will be a very strong operator and my favorite ban on defense. The bigger thing here is because of the bans, IQ doesn't really have, or her utility doesn't really have as much mileage as normal, so the need for IQ is severely diminished because Valkyrie and Echo are both removed.
Not a really huge surprise just because there's limited ways.
First defensive round, and what happened here is the Mira elicited a 6 picks to the Twitch. The thing is, Factor 6 picks to the Pulse instead of sticking the Mira. So LG gets away with a little cheeky 6 pick, or a force of a 6 pick. Bolo switching off the Ash onto Twitch isn't significant really, because they're both considered to be more of those fragging operators than a heavy utility operator. Also worth noting is TSM is bringing Gridlock as a substitute for the Nomad, and LG is bringing two ACOG operators in Doc and Maestro in order to hold very long angles on Consulate, which the map certainly helps with.
picked the Twitch there.
Normally at this point, I would talk about reinforcement strategy, but what's far more interesting than the way that Luminosity shapes the site is the way that TSM is going to attack the site. What they want to do is they want to plant in the position that I've circled by the desk and console. In order to do that, they're going to smoke a area towards cabinet to fake a plant, which will force out or plant denial potentially in those smoke grenades. Not relevant to the round because TSM's true attacking strategy is their prowess on window repels of console. They're going to have Gridlock playing the console window, which effectively denies this desk area, and we'll talk about this quite a bit. So all of that is now dangerous because of the repel on console. You've also got a way to counter anyone in connector. Additionally, repels from connector create a crossfire into the following positions as well as meeting. So retaking becomes very difficult because connector literally cuts off the connecting rotate from the other site as well as the lobby front desk area towards yellow stairs. Furthermore, TSM has another crossfire established on private bathroom. So this area that I've highlighted in yellow becomes a death trap. Lastly, Buck playing on yellow skylight will be able to assist with the plant coverage and also able to deny anyone from retaking or denying plant from yellow. I'm going to leave these crossfires up, and now we'll look at the different reinforcements that are used and where Luminosity could improve their reinforcements against a attack like this. So one on cabinet, an additional one on yellow. There's one on yellow in private bathroom. This very important reinforcement here on private bathroom. This diminishes the power of the repel in private bathroom, but only to so much of an extent. A reinforcement in connector, again, diminishes the power of the connector repel, but only to so much of an extent. A reinforcement on connector and meeting. The standard two walls in meeting, copy room, and visa. It's important to note that the reinforcements on the east side of Consulate aren't going to be relevant at all during TSM's execute, and putting reinforcements on this additional connector wall as well as private bathroom would help reduce the power of the repels that TSM is going to set up for their execute. Of course, it's very difficult to predict just how a team is going to attack, but this is a way to counter the strategy that TSM is bringing, as well as because Nomad is banned, you should be able to run out more easily. One thing that I want to point out as well is we have the soft destruction on yellow stairs, which gives a defender an angle from yellow to deny plant, but they've reinforced this cubby wall, which slightly reduces that denial potential, and Buck is also playing on yellow skylight in order to deny anyone from denying from yellow. Lastly, it should be noted that Luminosity has brought Pulse as well as Maestro in order to deny plant. If Pulse plays in piano through the entirety of the round, most likely TSM's plant in this very predictable spot can't happen without some kind of roam clear underneath. TSM is, of course, knows that there's the Pulse, and also their strategy is set up so that they bring some kind of roam clear underneath in piano. And we'll see that all unfold. The bigger thing is Pulse, when TSM decides to execute onto site, isn't in piano, isn't able to read into the execution of the plant, and somehow the entirety of Luminosity just seems to be completely caught off guard that TSM is actually sticking it. So Gridlock and Thermite are getting into position on the meeting repel. Bolo on Twitch is underneath in order to remove any kind of plant denial that would stop plant. Buck is on yellow skylight in position. Zofia is on connector repel. Plant comes down. Let's note that Smoke throws a gas canister into the smoke cloud that the attackers lay down. Great use of smokes and misdirection. Where is the plant denial from Luminosity in the Evil Eyes and the Pulse? So Pulse now is in piano, but it's too little too late. And these repels just start to kill Luminosity. Back to console and meeting, TSM is going to execute the exact same attack strategy. LG is going to adapt by putting an Evil Eye in the connector wall, looking into meeting, as a method of detecting the plant more easily. So we see the Evil Eye looking into console, placed on connector. The thing is that Bolo is on Twitch, and the shock drone will be effective at removing the Evil Eye. So the sole adjustment that LG makes in countering this strategy gets wiped out by a drone and 2 zaps.
This is all set up for an execute. All they've got to do is pull the trigger, but they've got to worry about how many players of Luminosity are still left alive.
Bolo on Twitch is now going underneath to deny any kind of C4.
Oh, he actually hits it. Doodle is down. Oh, Bolo on fire here. Still frag grenade in the back pocket of a Chief to use with 45 seconds. That's so much time. Maestro camera's already been dispatched. Smoke grenade.
This time Pulse is playing in piano. Bolo should have really made his way into this area because, well, he's expecting that. And I just want to make a little noise about this insane angle that Bolo has. So the Pulse is nothing impressive, but there is just a second of a frame where Bolo on Twitch can see the body right here of Jaeger crossing through this slit. LG is going to switch to Cafeteria and Garage. At this point, you kind of have to because you've shown that you're not very competent on defending upstairs. One thing to note is that Twitch is being brought from TSM, and LG, of course, has Mira. Twitch is very powerful here because she counters Mira as well as the Maestro. The mute potentially slows down Twitch. I've said before how I'm not a big fan of Mira on Consulate because of all the vertical destruction. I think one of the better sites for Mira is placing a black window in a black mirror in Cafeteria, which I believe is what LG does. Here's something that's very interesting. LG has reinforced 2 walls in, I think this is break room, here and here into admin. They've also placed a black mirror facing out into admin. This is to contest the typical entry into admin for attackers because most of the time you can enter on the second floor of admin on a basement defense with very little resistance. There is, of course, a repel here that can counter this mirror very easily, as well as soft destruction underneath. The way that TSM can deal with this setup is they can either completely avoid... Oh, actually, it looks like TSM reinforces this wall here to reduce the repel power. And they've placed the black mirror to the far south side, so the angle, I believe, is actually too deep to reach the black mirror. Nice setup from LG. The rotate here that LG's created is a little fruitless just because the repel from admin is able to cut off any player from leaving. If you're going to play in this position, there's almost no need to dedicate that soft destruction because the player either kills players entering into admin or dies doing so.
Then we're expecting to encounter each other in the garage right then. And that was just a great start.
Anyway,
kill, though, I believe
the way that TSM can attack site is one of two ways. They can either clear all of the top floor, or if they decide that the utility invested up towards admin is simply too much to deal with, they can completely avoid that utility. The thing is that they need to be aware of the presence of a roamer upstairs, because late into the round, he can of course flank.
Early in the round, Rexon goes down as well, playing that dock again. Not going to be healing anyone now. Merc has taken a bit of damage, but done potentially some as well. Nope,
so, TSM, as we've seen before on Consulate, decides to only focus on the lower floor and doesn't clear out the second floor at all.
There you go. That's one kill. There's a second. No.
Mute is upstairs and has a huge potential to flank as TSM begins their execute. The notification up here shows us that Mute has done just that. Mute's killed the Buck, who is presumably on yellow stairs or maybe in piano.
A mirror window is really the thing that is stopping you.
Twitch on Bolo gets super aggressive pushing into cafeteria here. What he needs to do is support the plant execution, but instead he's kind of chasing for frags. And it just so happens that the shotgun is more accurate than the F2. So, TSM moments ago had a 5-4 advantage with the ability to execute a plant, and in mere seconds they've lost really a round that they should win.
The shotgun to the face was more than enough to drop Bolo to the floor. Things stabilized in a minute and a half.
And who's alive? Player alive is the Mute, who has repositioned into piano.
And now they know where the diffuser's at. So this is actually stalled out quite a bit here in the C4.
Oh, the nitro.
In sum, if there is an off-site roam and utility dedicated off-site, you have one of two options. Either you contest that off-site roam and pinch that solo player in that position, which is what you typically should do, or you can completely ignore the utility dedicated there, the player dedicated there, but you need to be aware and also conscious of the fact that that player can be used against you late during your execute. TSM just didn't give Doodle on Mute enough attention, and Mute commanded attention as he late flanks, knowing that TSM isn't focused on him. At this point, Smoke does a smart thing and just runs away.
That's all you need. Luminosity with a W.
He doesn't need to contest. I don't think he knows that Gridlock doesn't have a diffuser. But Smoke mitigates the risk of losing that round by forcing Gridlock to at least plant. Because LG just won basement, then TSM knows that they can bring Habana instead of Thermite in order to help with opening hatches as well as the meeting wall. In the past, we haven't seen TSM effectively use Habana. It'll be interesting to see if there is some kind of change there. On LG's side, many of the same operators, but a 6-pick from Doc onto Vigil. The 6-pick doesn't really do anything, but I guess Rexon hasn't been very effective on the Doc and is probably better off with a true roaming operator. This shield doesn't get talked about enough, but if you place the deployable shield as TSM has, or sorry, Luminosity Gaming has, then you can contest the default plant in lobby entrance, which is what Luminosity is set up to do.
We could still see it here from either of these two teams.
LG adds a black mirror on the soft wall of public bathroom. I think this is a sort of double a double concealed line of sight that LG is creating through the Black Mirror as well as the deployable shield. It's kind of a cheeky way to not need to use a reinforcement, since the deployable shield will block anything from hitting below the waist, and the Black Mirror will prevent you from hitting face level.
Still see it here from either of these two teams. Is an interesting play to make.
Let's also note the fact that there's an ADS here-ish, which will be able to catch any grenades or Sophia launchers, etc., from destroying the deployable shield. Same mirror window that they used in the previous round to deny this admin entry that would normally be given to teams. So TSM, in order to do the routine, needs to very quickly enter into admin without losing numbers. So TSM is established in meeting. They have a drone leading Bolo, and it looks like the intel's there to call out the player in Cubby. At this point, TSM has gone onto the top floor and has complete control of it. They have all the horizontal pressure that Luminosity created in order to contest the first floor and default plants. So, Bolo gets the kill on Mira, and then we'll swap to a secondary. The thing is, his R4C still has 13 bullets. He doesn't need to make the swap, and he's now playing at a disadvantage. Okay. Console and meeting. TSM is bringing the same crop of operators. LG shows the pulse but switches on to mute. That's significant because TSM doesn't have a way to help with Habana being able to breach if what they do is place a mute jammer on meeting wall.
You gotta oil that lizard.
To start the round off, LG is using Mozzie and Mute downstairs in the basement of Cafeteria as roamers with C4. Looks like a different take from TSM this time. They're entering through admin, which they haven't done before on console and meeting. This line of sight that Habana opens up, to me, means that TSM will try to execute from the meeting balcony. And opening up this line of sight that Habana just opened means that it's impossible for a player to play close to the window and contest that entry. We've seen this take before when they played against G2 at Rally. So Execute's coming down. They're seemingly unaware of the player in connector, and there's no way really to support that contention of plant. Maybe from Spiral stairs, but we just saw the player was overwhelmed by another player on Spiral. At this point, TSM needs to regroup. Merc is on Spiral, you have Buck in console, and you have the Gridlock on Yellow Stairs. TSM's too far apart. They have the man advantage and can actually play trades to win. It's not going to matter because it looks like TSM is still in the driver's seat. Of course, as I say that, Hyena is able to get a 3k and clutch the round. It's actually a 4k total.
I said earlier that there was no one I was going to...
TSM needs to regroup in that situation and play the trades because they have the man advantage. They don't do that. They're very spread across the map, and what happens because of that is they throw a 3v1. TSM isn't bringing Thatcher, which means that it's very important for TSM to be able to vertically remove the bandit charges in order to enable Thermite opening up the garage wall. How quickly TSM does that is obviously the key to them winning. Bandit's much stronger as well, just because there's a high chance he'll be able to bandit trick and deny garage wall from being opened. Once again, an offsite Mira in Piano. Placing that Mira on Piano helps with denying the vertical pressure onto the bandit.
I'm very intrigued by it because Mira doesn't.
The longer that black mirror is able to delay the vertical pressure being created, the more easily Luminosity or Doodle on Bandit is going to be able to Bandit trick Garage Wall. Soft destruction from Gridlock and Buck here. What they're doing is denying any kind of rotate up through Visa stairs, or not denying, but creating pressure onto any rotate from Visa stairs. When a player is over that soft destruction, of course they are actually actively denying that rotate. But it's really to create the pressure and make roamers think twice about moving up there. Jaeger drops, so now it looks like TSM has complete control of the second and first floor.
And Factor tries to punish it, but decides the better of it because I don't think he's going to land that.
I actually think that Jaeger should have stuck this position just a little longer, or at least removed the drone. The fact is that we have 2 drones coming into public bathroom, but no follow-up from TSM. Of course, the black window being opened up doesn't help with Jaeger being able to situate himself here. But at a minute 40, you've just forfeited control of the top floor and enabled TSM the ability to get the garage wall open through vertical play.
I don't think he's going to land that C4, but I like the idea. This Twitch drone could even pick out this piano control, though.
Vertical play removes the bandit charges, so you can open up the garage wall now. And we hear Thermite doing that. So let's look at the positioning of LG. They're all stationed extremely deep into sight. The reason why TSM can't execute a plant on white van is because Smoke is actually able to throw a smoke canister into that spot all the way from cafeteria. What needs to happen is Buck needs to open up vertically into cafeteria in order to help contest the positions of the anchors, who is seemingly everyone on LG. One thing I noticed in the post-round replay is the fact that the Evil Eye has now been removed. And this is huge. It's probably the reason why TSM feels comfortable planning on white van despite the fact that there's still the smoke. The other problem is just the overall pacing of that round. So at 30, TSM begins plant. I made a note that Smoke could still deny a plant at this point. Ultimately, I think that the plant denial just wasn't there anymore for LG in terms of running out of gas canisters and also the Evil Eye being removed. As I mentioned before, Bandit wasn't able to trick because they lost vertical control very quickly. They dedicated 3 reinforcements to public bathroom, a black window there too, in order to do just that. And they gave it up when 2 drones walked into public bathroom instead of a player. From LG, they're bringing Thermite Thatcher. I've only raved about Thatcher, but again, I think it's a good call on Consulate because you can create that horizontal pressure from garage very quickly. They're showing the Lion. They have the Gridlock, the Zofia. These are 2 very meta operators on Consulate, of course. Well, Zofia is meta on any map. Gridlock is meta on Consulate to shut down rotations. On the defensive side, we see Maestro and Doc, 2 Egg Hug operators to peek the Thermite Breach. Makes a lot of sense. Of course, Maestro offers plant denial. And we also have Smoke in order to slow down the pacing of the round. These 2 operators, we'll highlight real quickly. Plant denial operators, well, Smoke specifically has 3 gas canisters that can delay the plant for 45 seconds. On a console basement attack or defensive site, the attacking side opens up garage wall very quickly, and then they've got this huge amount of horizontal pressure that somehow the defense needs to be able to stall. They can do that one of 2 ways. The first way is through vertical control and being able to contest the exothermic breach and the entry that the attackers have created from above. The problem is that most attacking teams know this, and they'll try to establish control of piano itself and deny any retake of piano. The other option for defenders is to delay as much as possible, and Smoke does just that, using his gas canisters and throwing them deep towards White Van, or more specifically into the exothermic breach. But really, it's that time management that's so key for defenders. Mozzie's good for drone denial, and Vigil is also in kind of the same vein as Mozzie in that he denies the intel from drones. Having said all of that, TSM decides to switch from Smoke onto Bandit. They clearly value the roam of Vigil and the drone denial of Mozzie over the time management of Smoke, which I find is interesting. Bandit is also great because, well, you're playing on Cafeteria and you have the potential to trick. Of course, the Thatcher is being brought, and Thatcher is a direct counter to Bandit, so the question is who will win out the interaction between those two. It should be in favor of the attacking side. Factor is going to switch from the Lion onto the Jackal. The reason why he does that is because of Vigil. Vigil is a natural counter to Lion. Jackal, however, counters, well, everyone. There's really no counter to Jackal other than Cav, but Cav isn't a meta operator. Alright, so LG just read into the fact that there is a Bandit. LG needs to adapt and create some kind of horizontal or vertical pressure in order to contest the Bandit from tricking.
A lot of flexibility. Bolo as well, able to rotate around a lot more. That gives a lot of strength. So that early kill,
that doesn't happen.
Great job by Bolo.
And it looks like Bandit's already been able to snag one of the exothermic charges. Unfortunately, Bandit chooses one of the 3 wrong panels on the garage wall, and now LG has opened the wall at a minute 40.
I mean, they could probably take out the battery from there. You guys just gonna take it.
So because there's no smoke on the board from TSM, TSM needs to delay the plant for a minute and 40 seconds, with the only means to do so through Maestro, who is now dead, and to some argument, the Bandit or Mozzie with their C4. So Bolo on the dock with his ACOG is able to simply contest the entry of the attackers while they're trying to execute.
Bolo's hunting them clips. He is doing some serious work. This is like
there was a way to deal with Doc in that hallway position by going on an upside down rappel of the garage wall, but Luminosity Gaming clearly didn't know the positioning of Bolo or Doc in that hallway, and they get punished for it.
That's somewhat due to Merc not being able to Bolo's score.
On the side of LG, they 6-pick from Thermite onto Hibana. It's a bit of a waste because Thermite is just not that good on any other site other than the basement. So the 6-pick isn't really meaningful. If anything, Luminosity should have initially, or Hyena should have initially picked Hibana instead of Thermite, which would have given them more flexibility to adapt based on the operators that TSM brought. How do you adapt? Well, it's not really necessary because Thatcher counters so much on TSM's side. He counters the Evil Eyes, Pulse, as well as Mute. Okay. Some different reinforcements from TSM. The ones that really catch my eye are the 2 on the public bathroom. Well, actually, we've seen this before when they play against you too. One on the connector wall, another on the connector wall and console. Most likely here on yellow, there is the horizontal soft destruction from yellow stairs that gives us an angle to contest the rappel into meeting, or console, sorry. Then, based on prior knowledge, they have or will reinforce the 2 walls in meeting, as well as 1 copy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to guess that there is a reinforcement on yellow stairs because there was against G2 on their Consulate attack, and most likely the last one is on the Visa wall.
Yeah. See some Jackal pings coming out already as well, so at least Factor making sure he gets some work put in. And he just
good use of the Jackal very early. They have him tracked now. Jackal, Pulse looks like he's going to return all the way back to site.
on this particular map. We also saw it a bit earlier as well.
Maybe got stuck on that as well.
The way that TSM has set up defensively is they're heavily contesting the entry from admin. A deployable shield is in copy room, maybe a little too aggressively placed, but again is supposed to create this pixel angle that we just saw Maestro playing in order to contest anyone pushing through copy room. You have 2 shotguns in the area as well as Smoke using his gas canisters this early in order to push back the attacking force. The problem is that Merc on this mute can easily die from a player coming up these stairs simply because he has a shotgun and attacking operators have assault rifles.
So they have that. Pre-fires try and help.
Oh, and that's exactly what happens.
There's where the ping played up.
Well done by Doodle to realize the advantageous position he was in. The reverse repel is difficult to deal with.
Pojo with 2 gas canisters peeking a window.
He's going to stun Pojo Man for a second as Jarvis collects 1
and gets punished for it.
Staying alive as he gets the head of Pojo Man.
And Luminosity then overwhelms TSM. So TSM really still had that until Pojo decides to peek this window. Pojo has, again, 2 gas canisters, which equates to 30 seconds of being able to delay time. Instead of using the utility that Smoke brings in the gas canisters, Pojo decides to contest an upside down repel with the SMG-11. I mean, both players are probably at an equal, are equally matched in their positions, but why would you try to pick a player off with Smoke's guns when he has utility that can halt an entire push?
Someone early on that entry trying to contest it. I mean, we've seen that have been taken over by Mozzie, getting pings and calling things out for teammates. A lot of the drones that have been taken up.
So on top of the deployable camera, or on top of the default camera, TSM is dedicating this deployable camera, which gives them a visual on anyone creeping up long desk. They've also got Bolo on dock on yellow stairs, which is a means to support or a means to contest and use that intel. Let's also make a note of something that Doc or Bolo is doing as part of his routine. He's checking the spawn cameras in order to identify the potential push from Luminosity, which is great to see.
So it's definitely important to have those pests and get
so they know now that there's no push coming from the south side because the default cam is still up and they didn't see a player push from there.
Again, going for an admin take here for lobby, not a surprise though.
I'm TSM. I read into this and deduce that they have to be pushing through admin.
Pretty much the same way, but you know there's also going to be less people upstairs.
In the hallway, at least not spotted yet. So one in yellow, and you'll see Bolo as well.
This is the setup, right? Doc, with his ACOG, is going to want to contest the long desk here. He also has a way to see anyone who's pushing through a meeting, and I believe there's even horizontal soft destruction created from long desk into meeting in order to support the Mozzie, who I think is playing in meeting.
Well, close up by the bathroom. Usually you see a player like that.
Yeah, and just confirming that's exactly what's happening.
You have the angles. Everything has been preset for Bolo to stay in it.
Now they've got some angles set up as well.
Looks like Mozzie dropped and Doc retreated further into yellow stairs.
So Factor coming in to Projector. At least for TSM, they're wasting so much time. Bolo will switch over to the camera as he's checking.
Great use of the deployable cam, because Doc on that yellow stairs is really slowing down Luminosity's push through the second floor.
Just yet. Really, things are slowing down. Luminosity are trying to gather.
Get someone on the yellow rappel or on yellow stairs, and Doc can be dealt with very easily.
Start again the Jackal down. That's important play here, but you know.
I like the change here from TSM. Instead of sticking the Doc and swapping the Smoke, they've kept the Smoke and swapped the Doc for the Bandit. I think this is probably the most convincing lineup for a cafeteria basement defense, given the fact that you really want that vigil clearly.
Bolo actually going to switch off the Doc. Mozzie, so a lot of
LG is getting a bit stale with their operator selection. Is there room to mix it up? Yes, probably with the Jackal. I think Jackal's actually been relatively efficient with his utility. It's really difficult for me to ever really appreciate what Jackal brings unless we see a ping and then immediate frag. I always question how much utility Jackal brings towards winning the game.
I just mean you can't on land.
Yeah, that's true.
So
nice routine from Factor. He removes the default cam and then opens up the admin hatch. That's to dissuade anyone from walking into Visa because of the vertical pressure.
Ooh, good capture there. Good deny.
TSM has cleared the entirety of the second floor at this point with no contest.
That's really the strength of the Mazda. If you're capturing one drone throughout the round,
At a minute 30, you really want to be closer to the first floor than the second floor. Especially if that's smoke, because he effectively lops off 45 seconds, meaning you've really got 45 seconds in order to execute plant, and you're on the second floor.
Well, it's funny that they're going to have to use a lifeline to open up floor because we've got two operators on attack with secondary shotguns that could open that up, both Doodle and Factor. So a little bit of a waste of utility there, but hey, time management.
Yeah, that is significant, Mizo. Let me explain why. So Luminosity only has Sophia and Thatcher as a means to remove the Evil Eyes from Maestro. So maybe bring the Sledge instead of the Jackal. Jackal's not really netting any frags. I guess you can argue that he is getting a lot of mileage out of his utility because we constantly see those Jackal pings. But now I'm worried that LG doesn't have a way to deal with those Evil Eyes because they've just used a 5th on opening up Stop Destruction.
45 seconds left, throws the first smoke. If he bides against a white van push.
That looks like a pick from outside on to the Mozzie, probably in cafeteria. Smoke is going to deny the deep run-in from Luminosity Gaming. They're trying to plant white van, but they just smoked white van, so they're going to run to the side of white van in order to plant, most likely. But smoke is there.
In the secondary position here, Pocho Man will find one, Bolo with another on the Thomas as Rexon. Doodle will find a kill each.
Looks like a flank from the back in cafeteria completely dislodges TSM's super hold. And what was a 5v5 just seconds ago is now a 2v5. Or sorry, is a 1v2.
Well done.
I really like the position when he does.
Definitely and to do so, they need
Hyena can 6 off Thermite onto Hibana,
need to make sure that they not only secure the next round to guarantee
but chooses not to. Again, there's just not much that you can Thermite on any other site than basement, so he's typically a wasted pick. You can even just play a more frag-oriented operator. You can Thermite the Visa wall, but Hibana has more mileage with her utility and can also open up some pressure into meeting by her pellets opening up that meeting wall from a distance, which is less risk. Two players roaming with C4 underneath in the basement, and the Pulse and just Pulse and Jaeger. I think it's Pulse and Jaeger.
And they're just working their way.
Jaeger is not super effective under sight. Pulse is obviously very effective.
And it didn't really work out so well for TSM.
So there's not a ton to talk about in this round. Basically what happens is a bunch of players take 1v1s and they lose those 1v1s. TSM ends up on top in far of who won and lost those 1v1s. Pulse in this position on Visa stairs is very strong because, of course, he's able to deny the hop in from meeting balcony. You also have Smoke, who's playing in connector, so there's a crossfire here established through TSM if Smoke peaks. And Pulse is able to deny that entry.
this round is pretty much done and dusted. TSM.
LG had tracked Pulse for almost the entirety of that round, but Pulse was still able to net I believe, 3K. So while they brought the Jackal, Jackal wasn't used to actually pinch that roamer under sight. And so Pulse is able to call out a bunch of intel because he's not being contested really. Moreover, there's just the utility is being used, but there's no action being used on the utility that gives the attackers so much intel as to the position of one player. One trait I think you'll begin to realize about me is that I'm a huge fan of Thatcher and a non-believer in the power of Jackal. Something that would help a lot for LG is if they brought nades. Nades, of course, would be great on, say, a sledge, so you wouldn't have to dedicate Zofia to opening up soft breach. Again, it comes down to operator preference. I do not prefer Jackal. On our last defense, we'll see TSM go to lobby and press room.
So we're going to try this lobby again for the final round either. But at least it hasn't been just the Rexon show for Luminosity.
Last time when LG entered into Garage, they dedicated a lifeline to opening up this rotate. I like that Jackal this time is doing that just because, again, Zofia and Thatcher are a fifth of the utility that they have in order to remove the Evil Eyes.
I like how they can hang in midair, just like footprints do.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And
Jackal scans. There's clearly a priority for pinching the Pulse this time from LG. I like to see this a lot more.
And it's kind of expected, right? These are pre-placed holes.
Inside, it depends on how they want to place, but they're a little focused factor, actually kind of obsessing a bit.
Nice droning from Rexon. He's doing it for himself, which is not ideal, but the fact is, Rexon is a fragger. Rexon's going to pre-fire that, and Rexon wins.
Luminosity in a position to try and tie this out a little bit sooner.
So Bolo is alive and he's on yellow.
I would be interested in seeing the position of Doc. It looks like Doc should have been able to cover Jaeger from yellow stairs, but maybe bad timing, or Doc rotates there too late. Hard to tell.
So Bolo is alive and he's as much fire as possible.
Rexon knows now that there's a player on yellow stairs because the concussion grenade just went off.
Factor takes him out from behind. That's 2 kills now for TSM. But the Maestro and the Jaeger have been eliminated. TSM
all right, 5v3 in favor of Luminosity. They just need to trade out. If they regroup and play close to each other, there's no way they lose this unless there's a really good C4 from TSM. And it's a flawless round from Luminosity. Great game from both teams. From the side of TSM, what we saw versus G2 at the Rally Major is they struggled a lot with attacking on basement, and that was because of no use of the Thatcher. Let's back up just a second here and look at what TSM brings. So they're bringing Buck, Thermite, Twitch, Gridlock, and Zofia in order to attack on the basement. My recommendation is very simple. Bring Thatcher. Thatcher makes it so much easier for opening up that garage wall, and the sooner you can do it, the better. They also have just consistently gotten punished from losing vertical control of Piano when they execute into garage. They had a very convincing attack on to Console through the repels, which I think just doesn't need to be changed because it was so strong. Defensively, I think the biggest problem TSM ran into is they brought plant denial, but weren't able to always efficiently use that plant denial. A great example is the smoke in Pojo. It would be unfair to say that Pojo or any smoke player ever throws around by not using their gas canisters as much as they have the utility to win the round. And that just doesn't happen, because what we saw in that one occurrence was the smoke peeking up a window instead of using his 2 gas canisters in hand with 30 seconds left. Bolo on the Bandit also had a huge opportunity to trick this garage wall on round 9, or 10 actually, but wasn't able to. That's just something that you need to practice. It's all through sound. Would have made defending that a lot easier. To actually lose that site too, that one time. A draw from TSM versus Luminosity Gaming. I'd like to go back to that map decider that TSM initiated in their choosing of Consulate over Villa. You took Luminosity on their strongest map. I have to raise the question, would you have won if you had played Luminosity on Villa? We'll never know, because of course the season will end before they're able to play against each other again, at least in the Pro League season. But it is a question for TSM to look back at when they reflect on this match. Of course, there's other areas that could have improved in terms of their Consulate play. Thank you for watching. Leave any feedback and stay tuned for the next coverage of TSM as well as G2 through the end of the week. Take care.